You can truly see what type of passion Dr. Farley has. And the work that all physicians do in the field of viral hepatitis, it is an infectious disease, and it does become a passion that way, for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is, as I say, we are just running a little bit behind time, but if you please, grab a cup of coffee. Our last two speakers of the day, I have two patients that I have worked with over the years, and wanted to bring a very personal touch of what Hep C means. We can look at statistics and we could look at data, but when it comes down to the really truly basics, it's how Hep C affects patients on a personal level. So one of my patients who has also become a big advocate, her name is Shirley Gust. And if Shirley could please come to the podium. And what I will show you is Shirley's picture ended up on the front of the Citizen in Duncan yesterday or the day before. So Shirley's going to explain and talk about her story. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone so much for making the time to be here, especially for your willingness to come and listen today. I'd like to especially thank Fran Faulkner for inviting me to share my story. My name is Shirley Gust. I found out that I had Hep C 21 years ago at the age of 31. Let me tell you a bit about how I grew up. I grew up in a very unhappy home. I experienced abuse, and I witnessed violence on a regular basis. I had my first drink at the age of 5 at a family wedding, and I used drugs for the first time at the age of 11. With drugs and alcohol, I was popular. I could make up a new character to be me, other than me. I wasn't shy, and I didn't feel ashamed of who I was or who my family was. Life got out of control, and I continued this legacy of making unhealthy choices, trying to meet my healthy needs in my life. I have been a user of crack cocaine and addicted to alcohol, morphine, and Tylenol 3. I contacted Hep C when I was 21 years old. I was talked into using heroin one night. It's not something I will ever feel proud of, and yet the effects of that one night have permanently altered my life. This period lasted for about 2 years of recreational use that night, and that was the only time I ever used needles. I was foolish, I was careless, and I thought I was being cool and hip, and that's how I got it. Hep C progressed secretly in my body for 10 years before I found out about it. I found out about it from the Red Cross, who wrote me a letter asking me to get tested for hepatitis B. When I was tested, I found to be negative and was encouraged to continue donating my blood. A week later, I received a second letter from the Red Cross asking me to get tested for hepatitis C. I tested positive. Just having received my 10-year donation pin, I had been donating faithfully every 6 months for 10 years. You do the math. This is an issue that affected all of us. My recovery journey starts 14 years after receiving my diagnosis. I sobered up for the first time in 2001. Because of my first treatment and having to abstain from alcohol and drugs for the full 6 months of treatment, I was on Pegatron and Rivitin. At the end of this treatment, my doctor at the time told me that he felt I was cured. He was very confident that I was cured and insisted I had nothing to worry about in viewing the results of the last set of tests. On the day they arrived, he walked back into the office, sat down in front of me and said, "I'm sorry, you didn't make it." It was an emotional roller coaster that left my soul in shambles. I returned to drinking. I was devastated. I had no hope left. I had been told, and I do believe that if I had stayed on the drug for a longer period of 6 more months, I may have beat it and would not be talking to you today. Now, jumping to 2004, my ALTs were skyrocketing, and I'm very sick. My doctor, family doctor, was scared and wanted me to return to my liver specialist to receive the newest treatment for Hep C. At that time, that was Hepatitis. When my liver doctor told me I did not qualify for this new drug, I learned that there was a Hepatitis C clinic at the time in Nanaimo, and that's where I made contact and received my first appointment with Fran Faulkner. Fran got me to see a liver specialist up in Nanaimo and put in a new application for Hepatitis, which we finally were successfully to do. To begin this second treatment, I also stopped drinking for the second time. I also needed my doctor to do the protocol on this drug. She agreed. However, I quickly learned that I, as a patient, would have to walk her through this process. I had to tell her how to interpret it, the results of the test in the context of the Hepatitis C, what the acceptable levels were, and when action was required. These were skills considered standard for a liver specialist if I had a liver specialist that was doing this. However, in the absence of my doctor, the liver specialist's willingness to take me on as a patient, my doctor, family doctor, was willing to learn this. And this is the first time she had done this or had a patient with Hep C. I lasted 12 weeks, I believe, on the Hepatitis before it came clear that I was a non-responder to this drug. The severity of the side effects of this drug, however, became a catalyst for the internal transformation I had to make in order to achieve long-term sobriety. The biopsy at the beginning of the treatment caused internal bleeding in my liver, and this was my second biopsy I had. During the course of these 12 weeks, I became severely dehydrated and was in and out of the hospital continually while living in an alcoholic and in an extremely dysfunctional lifestyle. I wasn't drinking, but I lived with an alcoholic. This was my rock bottom. It made me change the way I wanted to see my life. After 2 years of attempting to sober up on my own, I left my partner, and on March 18th, 2006, entered into the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, I have so much to live for. Today, I haven't had a drink in 6 years. In July of this year, I will have been clean of drugs also for 6 years. Today, I'm 55 years old and the grandmother of 3 beautiful grandchildren. In addition to leaving alcohol and drugs behind, I have changed all aspects of my lifestyle in order to face, feel, and transform the emptiness of my past into full being service in my present. I have taken every opportunity and made use of every avenue presented to me to heal, to actively take responsibility for my life and create an entirely new way forward. I continue to be intensely involved in AA, working through the 12 steps and making amends to others and myself as thoroughly as I have been able to. I have studied Vipassana meditation, developed a regular practice of prayer, and I have radically changed my diet for the better. I have been receiving counseling for several years and have been able to develop meaningful relationships with my chosen family and my community here in the Cowichan Valley. I'm not in the Cowichan Valley, but I am in Victoria right now. I know where I am. I have been an avid volunteer. I started my own business, and I ran it successfully for 6 years until I had to give it up because of my disability, and had to go on. Had to go on disability. I have raised 2 wonderful boys, my son Michael and my daughter-in-law Shyla, who are in the room with me today. And I'm surrounded by beautiful friends like Crystal, that's in the room today, and her mom and dad, who are all here to support me in telling my story, so that the legacy of Hep C does not have to continue. I have so much to give my grandchildren now. I have so much to live for. I am a loving spirit, rich in life experience. I am creating a new, healthy legacy. My grandchildren are learning that grown-ups treat each other with respect, and that it's okay to feel safe in the world. Along with all the good things about my life today, I, along with thousands of people in British Columbia, am also and still dying of hepatitis C. The new drug, Victrelis, was designed for people like me, non-responders, people with compensated cirrhosis. Last Wednesday, I had an opportunity with an internal organ specialist who has replaced the only remaining liver specialist in Duncan. The doctor informed me that he had been waiting for our appointment to hand me the prescription that will save my life. He handed me the slip of paper, which is this here, and told me that the treatment was also waiting for me at Fran's office. I was over the moon. I told everyone I had won the lottery, but it wasn't money. It was my life that I was going to get back. What he didn't understand at the time, unfortunately, is that there was no funding to pay for it, and that without funding, the cost of the drug alone rendered the prescription paper, which is this, he was handing me absolutely useless. Unknowingly, he had handed me a horrible taunt. When I phoned Fran, she told me that I and the internal specialist had been misinformed. Yes, the prescription is here in my hand, but there is no funding for me to fill it with, and the cost of the drug is completely unreachable. Like some kind of cruel punishment for my past, I have a prescription here for the drug that is already saving lives in Quebec and Ontario, but there is no money behind it. There is no reality behind it. It is a piece of paper like the fantasy I have dreamed so many times, only to find that it wasn't true. If I had cancer, my treatment would be funded. If I had diabetes, they would what? Yep, they would fund my treatment. If I had AIDS, yep, they would treat me. Victrelis is saving lives in other parts of Canada, but why not here? Why not for me? Without this treatment, I likely do not have long to live. I already have cirrhosis of the liver. My condition has worsened, and I'm getting tired. The diagnosis of terminal is becoming real, like never before. I'm experiencing greater and greater fatigue. I have oral Leachman implant in my mouth, which is sores, and that's an autoimmune disease that I've been living with for the last 2 years, that sometimes I can't eat because my mouth is still sore inside. And I have to rest and sleep on excessive amount of time. My liver is hardening from cirrhosis every day, and it's getting harder for the blood to flow through my liver. My spleen is enlarged. I have to have ultrasound every 6 months to check for cancer. And my spleen is enlarged because it's all backing up. Sorry. What will be next? Cancer? Liver cancer? Welcome to my nightmare. I'm scared of this thought. But yet, I have the winning ticket. I do have a prescription here. But yet, I don't. I feel like giving up. Call for actions is what I say today. My call to you is for widespread distributions of proper testing, diagnosis, medication, education, and prevention of hepatitis C. We need to be heard in Parliament on this issue immediately. Back when I was in the hospital, the nurses treated me as if I was an AIDS victim. And even today, people still look at me and say things like, so do you get it from sex, or is it contagious? When people used to ask me how I got hep C, I would tell them I got it from tattoos because I was embarrassed and ashamed of my past. In retrospect, I added to the confusion. I'm here today to tell my story because I want people to understand how this happens. And because I know I'm not the only one with this story. I want as many people as possible to know my story so it doesn't happen again. I speak for all those who can no longer speak for themselves, all those who have already fallen through the cracks, all those currently on their deathbeds, all those who might not know they have this yet, all those who are headed down the same shady road that got me here. Hepatitis C starts in a dysfunctional families. It is an epidemic that has surpassed the numbers of AIDS and continues to rapidly grow. It's time to wake up. It's time to take action, starting today, starting right now. I leave you with this message. It takes one person to make a change, and if everyone who is here today wrote the Member of Parliament, MLAs, the difference it would make could save my life. I'm the voice of everyone with Hep C to say today that there are more than enough people gathered today in this room to save my life and the lives of so many others. Please help me.